So, let me tell you the main reason that I have a huge problem with forced medical treatment, especially for minority children. It looks like I'm asleep, don't I? My eyes are just swollen. Let me tell you why I have a huge problem with forced treatment for minority kids. Those medications have a host of physical side effects, and they also cause mental side effects. The Seroquel, one of the main side effects of it, is mood swings, what it's supposed to help with, just like the antidepressants causing depression to suicide. Antidepressants causing depression to the point of suicide, and the antipsychotics causing mood swings. So that first, it's antidepressant, antipsychotic, mood stabilizer. Well, let me tell you about the actions that those drugs caused and not being able to use medical as a defense because they failed to document the diagnoses accurately. So let me tell you about Deputy Gill and his wife, Rebecca Lewis, who used to work for that drug peddling department, the county clerk's office, and several others, then going to comprehend. I have no proof that they were altering or destroying records, but that is very suspicious, especially since she was working with one of the dealers in Stephanie's department over in the property deeds. Lisa Andrews went from Stephanie Schumacher's drug peddling department to Kirk Toll's court record department to Patrick Boggs' harassment department, working courtroom security, because guess what? Her son was dealing shit. So, I'm at a loss. I don't mean to be a bitch. I don't mean to complain. I would just like to see my medical records modified to, show the diagnosis as it is. It's not like PTSD is any less of a diagnosis than psychosis or schizoaffective bipolar epilepsy. PTSD is a pretty serious mental health illness and it causes a range of problems for people. I try to control myself every day until, here come the forced drugging suicidum squad. This doctor says that you need to be on this medication. You're refusing to take it, so we're going to force you into treatment. Well, let me tell you about Dr. Rita Goldman and her ties to the goddamn cannabis industry, recommending adjustments every day of the week, even when your head feels like it's going to explode. I can say that with every confidence. I was at David Goldman, her son, and I think he was living with Justin Denham and some other dude at one point. Down towards Capronis, I think it was. An interesting apartment building, an old building of Mason County. Pretty sure that's where I met Nicole. Santos, Jones, Brooks, whatever the hell her last name is now. Building inspector. Maysville's building inspection people. Yeah, she's a 2. Or she was that night anyway. So, as I said, medical cannabis, clean cannabis, was one of the best perks of being an employee of Mason County, Maysville and Mason County. Not to mention the Sam's Club memberships on the tax dollar, and being able to write their makeup and pretty stuff off on their taxes. I'm just at a loss. I'd like to press charges against the people who caused all these problems, but you know what they always throw in my face? Your mother is the one who called. Is she? That's what Devin Hull said. Your mother, because I asked him, I said, so you're going to take her word completely over mine without asking any questions or reading me my rights. He was like, I don't have to read you your rights. That's fine. That is absolutely fine. You all keep throwing my mother back in my face as to why you won't take a statement. That's fine. I'll just go beyond my mother to the entire situation, including your commanding officer's family giving my family a pat on the back for poisoning me. Diesel fuel marinated steak and bleach. Yeah, Dan Scythers accepted their bullshit excuse, as did Randy Harris. And like I said, Susan Grayson, who's now right on up in administration and records, her husband, he used to throw books at people in history. At least one time during my time at Mason County Middle School, he threw a heavy-ass book at a student. But you know what? They were right there to shut us up about the ritualistic child abuse. It was annoying. It was homophobia. It was transphobia. I pray to God that no other child has to go through what I went through. I really do. I really do. Because no one understands the depth of what it does to children like me, how I was as a child. That's why I don't give a goddamn about talking about everything publicly. People deserve to know what those medications do to people, especially when they're used to help cover up things that need to be resolved. Raping a child is wrong. I was raped as a child numerous times. Of course, it was all wrong. I didn't have a choice. It left me to the point I was unable to take care of myself. For the longest time, I couldn't even really truly care for myself, my physical being. It was hard to deal with, very hard to deal with. Whatever. It's in the past. I had to let it go psychologically anyway, or else I probably would have killed myself a long time ago. I had expressed concern about being suicidal, and that might be one of the reasons I collapsed in the high school that day. Because they like to exercise the laws that fit their agenda and then claim they don't know other ones. Like Christy Klebeck Boggs falling under Kentucky Revised Statute 216.302. Mental duress by any medical professional causing someone to commit suicide is a Class C-D felony. I let Mr. Boggs know that, and apparently that's why Primary Plus makes house calls and harasses people for pointing out these things that normal civilians don't know unless they have legal representation. And let's face it, the lawyers with whores and heroin and meth and marijuana don't give a goddamn about the normal person. Just like with Mr. Baguki telling me that there was a statute of limitation on felonies in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, especially where child rape and ritualistic abuse that left them injured was limited. I sat there and asked him, because I already knew. I was like, where did you get that information? He was like, oh, they updated it. I'm like, yeah, they updated it, and here's the Kentucky legislature information right here. Right here. But he has cancer, so maybe he just didn't know. Who knows? He wanted $5,000 right off the bat to do a property partition. I'm like, technically I could file it as a pro se thing myself. I really doubt Stockton or Kim, grant it. They'll sit and come up with some bullshit excuse about it damaging the integrity of the farm. I offered to allow my family to buy me out. They claimed they didn't have to do that they weren't going to do that. I wanted to sell after my father died. Death threats, and they removed my firearms. Oh well, I wouldn't have used them anyway. If somebody broke in and came at me, there's no way that I could do it. I'm a pussy. Big old chicken shit. Wouldn't do it. Anyway, death threats. They threatened to burn our house down. This is all 100% factual. And then it became to the point that there were like children's diapers and clothing along Springdale Road that I was finding. And I tried to report that, but nobody ever came out to take a statement. I mean, that is concerning, especially with me being a gay man and my name being on that property. But whatever. Patrick Boggs made the statement, and I published it publicly. He stated, due to the complaints you filed against me in my department, well, I apologize that the Mason County Sheriff's Department pre your time and during your time, animal and child porn with Mason County legal representation, well, my apologies for, voicing my concerns. And you know what? My apologies. If I go around and I'm like, well, you're pretty or you're attractive, it normally just comes out. You know how they say taking your breath away by beauty or something? People call it flirting. It's called compliments. It comes out and then I realize it because guess what? It's called Tourette's syndrome. It's annoying enough as it is for me, let alone having to deal with everybody else's reaction to it. And just like I tell old people, social workers and law enforcement, I'm a hugger. I don't want your goddamn firearm. I'd prefer it if you didn't have it at all. You can kill a person with a taser and pepper spray if you have to. I'm a hugger because I believe that. I believe in energy. The energy we put out into the world comes back on us times 3, and you better believe that. I always poured my heart and soul into everything, only for it to be bitch slapped back in my face for no reason other than homophobia. And it was depressing enough as it is without people perpetuating it. People can't stand my religion. You know, the Bible talks about people who can channel the dead, supposedly. They say that they're evil. All the while, those same people who had quoted these things stating that, you know what, people receive messages from God and angels visit us sometimes. While it is a beautiful fairy tale, it does try to describe the universe as it is. You know, Catholics call it purgatory. The government's trying to say it's a hologram. In reality, it's much, much more than any of us can imagine. They would sit and point at, let me just talk about Britney Spears again for a minute, on 3 separate psychotropic medications. I don't know how the poor thing survived, to be quite honest. The medications that are supposed to help us then create, this whole new level of hell. People want to talk about me talking about alternative realms and blah, blah, blah. Well, what in the fuck do they think heaven and hell are? All the while asking us to swear in on a Bible. So as long as we believe how they believe, it's okay. So now do you understand why I had a problem with the homophobia and transphobia and being unconstitutionally forced to go to services and read the Bible? Corporal Werline's disgusting transphobic pervert post, when her and Trent were no angels, especially where cannabis was concerned, is annoying as hell. So yes, I burst my temporal artery. I had a flashback. It triggered me. It's called a nervous tic. It's why I go out walking like a fiend sometimes. It's not mania. People say you need to be able to learn to control your emotions. I don't know how many times I've heard that. I was sitting there quietly, quiet as a mouse, just watching TV one evening, when I got bludgeoned because of my family and their goddamn illegal activities. Came in and hit me so hard it fractured my skull. Fractured it. It was ritualistic child abuse. I was a clumsy child. My mother had smothered me and done all that stuff to me. It left me with a world of deficits. I think I do pretty fucking good. That's why my little pinky toes are turned outwards. Equilibrium. It's not because of intoxication. I never could walk. The foot drop and such. But then I had to put up with physicians like Nancy Gutman who would deny a wheelchair to a patient with metabolic wasting disease. I get tired about ranting and raving about the same things too. However, I think the straight men love it when I give them that look. Like, wow, what a man. They just smile. It's not funny, it's embarrassing. Flashbacks. Anyway, it's annoying to know one more than me, especially when no one will take the time to understand it. Because they don't want to. What happened to my eye? My mom bought me a BB gun when I was a kid. For Christmas, I fired it at homemade birdhouses that Bill Kelly and I had made. It ricocheted and flew right back in my left eye. I always was a clumsy idiot. That's not me downing myself, it's just reality. Always clumsy. Foot drop. Be walking along, foot would drop, catch something and fall. But I was pushed down the basement stairs and pushed off that bridge, just like I was poisoned. And the Kentucky State Police labeled it as unintentional. Unintentional. I haven't felt safe in my life, and that's not because I was a bad child. After they bludgeoned me, I was so wild, I walked around the front yard with a disposable pie pan. And that was my form of fun and exercise. People can't stand seeing me self-flagellate the way I do. But I got tired of, whips and chains. La, 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 la. That is why we were... Flashback to, that is why we are telling you to stand up and place your hands behind your back. You're violating religious freedom. You're violating several laws, according to federal civil rights statutes. You're opening the community up to lawsuits that they have to pay for while you people get to take your makeup and clothes and cool stuff off your taxes. Sit and lie to the public about it. Believe me, I went to cosmetology at one point. Our appearances, we were allowed to take all that off on taxes. Oh, percentage. Sorry, percentages. You can deduct up to so much percentage of each of these items because your appearance has to be maintained, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sure Miss Rideout just loves that. Watch me. Watch me, watch me, watch me. Sit and bitch about everything I know. Just like if somebody comes around, it's like Blanche. Catch me, catch me, catch me. And it's not some flirt or some stupid shit. It's supposed to be humor to lighten the situation. You're supposed to diffuse every situation versus forcing it to go on. Especially when you're trying to crush the life out of somebody. And quite technically, as I stated, we were taught to pray out loud. We just were. That's how we prayed. Then again, our churches normally had the same number of people in them as most non-Christian covens. And that's just how they rolled. Sam Bavard's church, there's around 13 regulars. Our church, around 13 regulars. Poplar Flat Church, there was around 13 regulars. Interesting patterns, aren't they? But no one ever wanted to listen to me or pay attention to the story. They just saw me as the, dumbass little kid following one of the men around until the women grabbed me up and, loaded me into a Cadillac or something and said, "We're going shopping." Cool. Cool. Carry the bags back to the car. You're lucky we brought you along. Oh. I hope you all were paying attention to the Cadillac owners of Mason County. It was symbolic, at least in my family. So every time I see a person in a Cadillac, I sit and think, well, what could that mean? Most people won't admit that, but that's how everyone is. Why are they driving a Cadillac? Just like with Devin Hull. Is this a Lexus? With some disgusted look on his face. Yes, Mr. Hull. The last time I checked the title of this car, it's a Lexus. The United States Cross. That's how I interpret it to make myself giggle on the inside. I'm sorry you're judging me for driving a foreign car. I didn't get offended by it. I just thought, what in the goddamn hell difference does it make what I drive? It's a blueberry. Odd. Then again, I couldn't smell the bleach that day. I could not smell the bleach in that cup that day. They say that loss of smell can be one of the first signs of dementia. Probably. Probably. I can understand wellness checks, social welfare checks. I do not condone, tolerate, or understand their incessant need to investigate everything during them. If a patient, in their religious right, as long as they're not completely crazy, decides, you know what, you people are overstepping your bounds, dictating medical care, which it's causing me to become even sicker, I think patients have a right to sue them for that, or at least press charges, especially if they were forcefully detained. My left side right now feels like it has been crushed by a steel baseball bat. And my neck, yeah. I woke up last night or the night before with that crushing feeling. I'm like, why does my neck feel that way? And it's to the point it limited my ability to enjoy life at all. Physicians say get massages, they're medically necessary. I can't really enjoy them and get the full benefit from them because of flashing back to cops mashing me, cops and medical professionals mashing me. We told you to stay down. I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing. I don't have to buy hearing aids or wear them. It's not required to live life to your expectation. I'm not going around breaking into homes robbing people. Once I got away from the negative influences on the street that were threatening my life, I tried to modify my behavior to be the person I wanted to be. home life, marriage, maybe children. But at the same time, I knew that I could not function physically without some form of pain management. It wasn't drug addiction. I gave up cannabis after it was legally recommended for almost 3 weeks to gain employment. I got employment, gained employment, started the job. I thought I was going to have to walk out the first night. I mean, that's how bad the pain was. And it wasn't psychological. I loved that job. Loved it. It was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Other than the physical stress it put on my body. And it's so depressing I can cry about it, but what good's that going to do? The last job before it was okay. Teleperformance USA, working from home in healthcare. They fired me for my mental health. I had filed an accommodation with them trying to detail my inability to control what comes out of my mouth sometimes, and it not being, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm not trying to, but every time they would throw it in my face, I'd be like, I tried to explain it to you. I have Tourette's. I have other mental health issues. I take medication. These things happen. They were like, you know what? We're firing you. We're terminating you. We've given you 3 chances. The big boss on the phone overheard one of your phone calls, was disappointed with the action, and, we're terminating you. You made a big fuck up. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. The big fuck up didn't happen until the other 2 first fuck ups, which were based on mental health. You're not listening to us. You're being unwillful and insubordinate. And I'm like, I'm not trying to offend anyone with my mental health. But they didn't see it that way. But their systems were shit anyway. There were at least 5 separate web interfaces, along with 3 to 4 programs on our computer that we had to navigate in between. My brain's just not designed to do that kind of heavy-duty stuff anymore, especially in healthcare. It was an interesting job. I don't think it paid well enough. Insurance was pretty good, though. But the last job, the factory job, the job most people probably would have thought, he'll never do something like that. It was amazing. Their insurance wasn't quite as good. It was a high deductible health plan. But the job was amazing, packaging things, and not like, running over an Amazon warehouse collecting things to package. It was all, pretty much one location. It was amazing mentally, easy enough for me to do. Physically, stupidest decision I ever made. But I always pushed myself. I had to. I fell and fractured my neck once, and they told me to walk it off. Maybe not fractured it, but it snapped. Like I told law enforcement, the dry mouth from this stuff is enough to make me want to throw it away. But I don't feel like being in so much pain that I want to saw my legs off all the time. My mother grabbed me and swung me around like a dead primate infant, smacking me as hard as she could, according to the people involved in the child porn productions. What am I supposed to do, doubt them? That fucking caused permanent injury, and it hurts like hell. Hurts like hell, just like this did. Not me hitting myself. That night that they did that fractured my skull, I never really recovered. And like I said, my mother's side of the family, I would sit and speak to John, Bud, and Ernie every goddamn time they would drive past the house. And I must have been a ghost. They would not even look. Now that is so fucking disrespectful that I don't even know. Just like with Christy Boggs, being a bitch and not saying hello. Am I that fucking disgusting that you people cannot even acknowledge my fucking presence? That's called homophobia. That's called transphobia. That's called being a fucking sick piece of shit. It is sad that Ellen Moore had to apologize for the management of Kroger Pharmacy in Maysville because they couldn't even say hello. Then, after Christy was no longer with Kroger, after that, she moved on to Mason Family Drug, and then helped Primary Plus open their Flemingsburg pharmacy. Believe me, I keep tabs on these people. I don't stalk them. Why in the hell would I want to? I can't stand her. I don't like people who won't even say hello to me. But at the same time, it's a small town and everybody talks. Plus, there's a shit ton of Fleming County people that come to Mason County to work and such. Christy Calvert Campbell's from Fleming County. People probably thought that I acted too mature or something for my age, but during the summer I went and visited her house one time because I wanted to see her llamas. I probably should have asked, but I was in Fleming County and I'm like, oh my God, that's where they live. She says they have llamas. I want to stop and see them. So I spoke to her mother before she passed away. I think, or maybe no, her father passed away when we were in school, not her mother. Her mother, small just like she is, such a sweet person. She's like, no, my daughter and son-in-law live next door. So I said hello to Mrs. Campbell, talked to her for a little while, saw her shelties and her llamas. That's what I want to see, the llamas. I love animals. I'm a farm kid. Dad never would let me have anything animal-wise other than what the cash bail system offered to buy me to screw and child porn. And that is 100% accurate. They offered to buy me animals to screw. And it's like, do you all really think that I'm that fucking sick? It's disgusting. And it reflected in medical care, it reflected in law enforcement, it reflected in everything. I was the patsy. The patsy. The absolute patsy. So if my family or those judges or lawyers have a problem with me telling my story as I saw it, with as involved as they forced me to be, I really do not care. All the while, my mother, with her religious point of view, we all have our place in the lake of fire. You know, the lake of fire is the womb, being dead and freezing, and then suddenly feeling like you're on fire because you're being given another chance. And then some people in this country decide to take it a step further and wrap kids up in things like blankets and suffocate them, only to. And one of the cases I read about and saw was that child's was reparative therapy because they claimed that the child was so unruly, anxiety and yelling and temper tantrum. So they wrapped the child up in the blanket, asphyxiated the child while, you're not coming out of there until you calm down. The child suffocated and died. Suffocated and died because people weren't mature enough to sit the child down, ask it what was wrong, and actually believe them. So let me tell you why I killed myself. And let me tell you about Sam Bavard's church, Bethany Christian. Yeah, Bethany, where they bring people back to life. Forget what that guy's name was, the evangelical preacher they have for their Christmas service. He is such a homophobe. I talked to them about it, and it's like, well, we've had him coming here for the last 20 some years. And it's like, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it was the Hamptons. I can't remember. But they were talking about the ACLU helping gays get rights, and I was just like, you know what? This whole goddamn thing is sickening. I'm going on to the kitchen and reheating stuff for the people who are going to sit here and chow down after that shitty fucking sermon. Or is it the devil? I don't think it's the devil. I think people use the terminology to. That terminology. That terminology to get away with a lot. So, my apologies, truly, for any behavior that might have offended someone. I had no criminal intention or ill will to harm anyone, which I haven't, to my knowledge. I've simply sat and told my story, as disgusting as it is. Sorry, I'm watching TV too. Hallmark for a change. Those lovey dovey movies. What is this one? Falling for You. Oh, speaking of movies, I cannot wait to go see that Bros movie. It looks so hilarious. I'm not one of these bloggers who sits and does cool, adventurous things. The most I ever do is go outside and walk. The other morning, I went outside for a walk, and I'm like, oh my god, the school bus still hasn't picked up the kids. Ugh. And then I saw these vans driving by, and I'm like, there are a lot of roofers and construction workers around here. Maybe it is good somebody stands out and, make sure they don't get, like, kidnapped or something. But I waited for them to get on the bus before I walked out of the driveway. I don't like kids. Oh, that's just like with the vehicles. The vehicles with the little dolls tied to the front of them. What in the hell is that? It has to be something. I've asked about this, and they refuse to tell me what they believe. When I send them little messages, it's like, what do you think about this? What parent would want their child in front of a vehicle playing with a doll and accidentally run over them? I don't know how many vehicles I've seen like that. And I'm like, why do they have those little dolls tied to the front of them? But then after I mentioned it, I saw those people had taken it off their vehicle. One of the people in our neighborhood down the street, on the other part of this street. I'm like, that has to be something symbolic. It has to be. You know what? I get tired of feeling like I'm wasting people's time. I simply point out the discrepancies that I see every day. Another thing that got on my last nerve with those doctors was claiming that that is nothing but heartburn. This, whatever this is, it's only heartburn. Actually, it's probably vagal nerve involvement due to being crushed. It's like, what do these people want from me? What do people want from me, in all honesty? It's on my last nerve. I'm pretty sure it was a flashlight that night that did this, because what hit me right here was larger than the area that went right here. They hit it so hard it fractured it. I showed you the imaging. It is mine. I have the physical actual imaging somewhere. If it was transported here, or it could still be in Mason County, I'm not quite sure. Whatever. People wonder why I would refuse medical care sometimes during one of their, well, we need to check on you and see how you're doing. You've been talking a lot again, you know. We're worried. We want to take you in for questioning. I would deny medical care because that's the belief system I was brought up to believe. Granted, I'll take now albuterol, but that's just like you have the right to remain silent. No, I don't think I will. I don't think I'll remain silent. I think I'll sit and scream, not scream, but I think I'll sit and say everything that I've been saying repeatedly. Only for them to choke me out, come to praying, and then claim, you said this. Just like Nicole Flack claiming I said something. Her and Betsy, if I understood the dynamic correctly, Nicole went into social work, but I could be wrong. And Betsy was with probation and parole, but I could be wrong on that one too. That's what they claimed. But then a lot of the people from Mason County claim to be, things they're not. I get tired of talking about the same thing on repeat, but it's the dialogue, my internal dialogue. It's not St. Nicholas or something. My internal dialogue. It's like, these situations need to be talked about in great detail all the time to see legislation change so that no other child goes through it. Well, that's like I said, with one of the instances to a threat to life. Mason County Sheriff's Department didn't show up for hours. My life. My mother calls because of a door and me yelling. They're right there. But I didn't bother to mention that there had been law enforcement in the household, Mason County's finest, doing property damage because, as I said, Deputy Hull, Devin, said he did not have to read me my rights or ask questions while witnessing me standing out on the patio. Just like with Ryan Hull, he didn't witness me doing anything. He came upstairs and found me sitting in my recliner. What's going on tonight? I said, my medication's off. I'm having a bitch fit. We'll take you to the hospital. Cool. Oh well. When they asked me why I would not go to voluntary treatment, I said it's because I didn't have insurance. My sister bitches and cries about every goddamn penny, while she used to punch us in the mouth and tell us to eat her vagina. So let me tell you about her husband working for Primary Plus in finances, and that company not recommending oxygen to patients who need it. Who say that Percocet, a controlled substance, is too addictive and dangerous, but then write a prescription for Lyrica, the disinhibiting party sex drug. No thank you, Dr. Patty, and I didn't fill it either. Dr. Patty Positek. I have 4 kids. You want to convince people in chronic pain that it's nothing but mental health? Maybe you should wash your goddamn hair every day. She told me that when her father died, it was a relief to her. Because I had expressed some concern about what I was going through with the death of my father. And, I tried to tell her, I'm like, you know what? I miss him like fucking hell, but it's also like, a weight or something. Because he was negative. He was always so negative. That's probably why I went around bitching all the time. And she was like, it was a relief when my dad died. And I'm like, well, whatever. We all have our crosses to bear. We all have crazy families, that's for damn sure. And she was the one, I think, who recommended me to that new pain management doctor in Metaview. He's I don't know, he looked like, well, I don't know, maybe he was a United States citizen. I'm not sure. He was a nice person. I had mentioned to him, I'm like, you know what, my pain's out of control. It's causing mental health exacerbations. I think it's time to talk about like a spinal cord implant or something, since you all don't want to do pain management again. And he was like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's something that people who've been in pain and gone through other modalities for years talk about. And I'm like, I've done chiropractic, massage therapy, opiate based pain management, um, whatever the anticonvulsant based pain management is. I've done cognitive behavioral therapy. I've done at home TENS unit. I've done at home weightlifting, yoga. I think it's at the point we can discuss the surgical interventions. And you know what he recommended? Water therapy at Ohio Valley Manor when I had Kentucky Medicaid, and they wouldn't accept it, according to them at Ohio Valley Manor. I'm like, what in the fuck is wrong with these people? Where in the fuck do they get off trying to say, you know what, we're doing the best we can. This is what we can recommend. We don't care if your insurance doesn't cover it. Well, oh well. Yes, that's how bad my pain is and how over pain management I am. I'm like, let's think about a spinal cord stimulator, not an implantable drug pump, a spinal cord stimulator. And he just thought that was outrageous. And I'm like, not really. Not if you read the actual medical file in its entirety. But far be it from me to, overstep my bounds as a patient, the one who actually has to live through it. The one who actually has to live through it, who went through being raped and human trafficked and domestically assaulted because of it. Oh well. There is no point in crying over spilled milk, according to the Kentucky Department of Social Security Disability Administration. Like I had stated, the administrative law judge in Fayette County over my case claimed that if I could do the paperwork to her satisfaction without an attorney, I could find something to do. And I thought, you know what, the next time you're hiring an administrative assistant, let me know, even though I don't have the qualifications for what you say I'm qualified to do. So annoying. I've been working since I was 6 years old. I was physically injured on that farm, I don't know how many times, along with the wood farm. Not to mention with law enforcement and the school district. As I said, Tim Grayson threw a huge book